The average person probably doesn't know those kind of things because it's not something you are taught, not in school, not in mainstream education. So hi, I'm Aurora, and yeah, basically I've always been kind of involved in the human rights space, and I've always been very interested in international relations and conflict and human rights and how all of those elements tie together. I've always been particularly passionate about period poverty because as a woman experiencing a period, I can't imagine what some people go through not having products or information to support their menstruation. So it's just always been something that has resonated and been close to my heart. And yeah, I've gotten involved in the past in various projects relating to period poverty. And then during lockdown last year, my sister and I were having a conversation about period poverty and like COVID and pandemic and the social injustices. And we were just discussing how some women are so disadvantaged because of their period, which really shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
So we decided to start CORA. Yeah. And yeah, I'm so glad that we did, because so far we've had an amazing response. And yeah.
Yeah, no, you guys are doing really well, you know, based on like my interaction with you guys on Instagram. So it's really, really cool to see.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then can you tell us a little bit about your own period story? Because there have been other people's period stories on your page. So I'm really interested in hearing about yours.
So my period story, I mean, it's nothing crazy, but I was actually always really excited to get my period, which I know is not the case for a lot of people. My parents have always been, especially my mother, has always been quite open about bodily functions and periods and that kind of thing. So when I did get it, I was able to just, you know, tell her and be super open about it. And I knew that she would support me and give me the products that I needed. Yeah. So I was always really excited to get it because I almost felt like it was like the next stage of becoming an adult or like a woman. Yeah, so that was just my experience of it. But I know a lot of women, it's just something that they really dread and they can't be open about it and they can't talk about it. So we want to change that and start more conversations about periods and fight the taboo and the stigma that goes with having a period.
Yeah. And that's also something that really drew me to the Instagram page, is that like you are also having open conversations about this, which is like, it really is rare, but it is something that's so important, you know? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then I'd also like to know a little bit about like when you started realizing the importance of menstruation and your overall well-being for menstruators.
I guess when I got my period, I never really thought about how important it was because, like I said before, I always had the correct products and the information and education and all of that. But it was actually a few years ago. I was doing an internship in Geneva. I was working really closely with the UN.
Yeah,
and we were working. I was recording the sessions of the UN Human Rights Committee, and they were recommending certain things for certain countries, and they were basically talking about how women are so much more disproportionately affected by conflict because of things like, obviously there's a lot of other things on the spectrum, but like having your period, you know, it's you're just so much more disproportionately affected than your male counterparts. And I just realized how we take it so for granted. At least I did, because I've always had the correct support and information and products and all of that. And so a lot of people don't get that, and it's so important because I mean the world is made up of, I think 51% is female. So I mean, it really should just be something that is supported by everyone, but it's not.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then so on this whole topic of menstrual health as being part of overall health. Can you tell me a bit of some of the stuff that you guys are sharing, like the educational content that you guys are sharing around menstrual awareness?
Yeah, so we actually have I'm sure you know, we have a segment every Monday called Bloody Normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, we post facts, we discuss topics all relating to one's period, because there's so much misinformation around it. For example, we posted the other day, because there's that, it's commonly known that women who spend a lot of time together, their periods sink. It's actually a myth.
Yeah.
It's actually a myth. It's not actually true. And then we discuss, on Friday, we actually had a good friend of mine discussing her experience of PCOS.
Oh, wow.
So we'll chat about those things. We've spoken about toxic shock syndrome, which I know a lot of people don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
But it's basically from wearing a tampon too long, because there has so many chemicals in a tampon. The average person probably doesn't know those kind of things, because it's not something you are taught, not in school, not in mainstream education. So it's very important to inform the people.
Yeah, no, it really is. And that's why I also think I really like what you guys are doing so much, because of course you are solving period poverty, but like part of the overarching problem is just lack of awareness. Like women don't understand how their bodies work, which is, it disadvantages us in a really big way.
And I don't blame them. Most people, well, not most people, but we don't really get extensive education on menstrual health or our bodies as women in school. I did LO for we had a short class on the menstrual cycle, but I don't think anyone even remembered after that. I think it's so important.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember anything that I learned about menstrual cycles.
Yeah, exactly.
In school. So also on my side, that's also why I want to share some of the hormonal health content that I do share, just because I didn't know anything, and I didn't know how my hormones were affecting me, and I also just didn't know how the general stigma around women's menstrual health was affecting my own relationship with my body and how I viewed myself. So I think that it is something really important to talk about, just so that we can take back the power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's empower ourselves through information.
Exactly.
If we understand why our bodies are doing certain things, why we're acting a certain way, why our skin's breaking out because it's maybe a certain time of the month, then we can understand our bodies so much better.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think this segues really well into the next question. You also have a segment on your Instagram page called Period Power, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in one of your posts, I was scrolling through your posts and I saw one that I really like, which said, it was a quote that says, "Be period proud." So I wanted to know, what do you think being period proud and period power actually means?
Great question. So for me, period proud kind of means, accepting and embracing what your body is doing. If you have a period, not all women do get their period, but if you do have it, I think it's also accepting that, you are having your period for a reason, and, being positive about it. Obviously, there's a lot of negative things that come with having a period, PMS, or some people have PCOS and that kind of thing. But I think being period proud means different things to different people based on the experience of having a period. But for me, it would be, just embracing how I'm feeling when I'm having my period, being kind to myself when I'm maybe not feeling 100% because I have my period or I'm premenstrual. And being able to speak about it. I know we still have a long way to come in terms of speaking openly about it, because it's still quite taboo. It's not really people just speak openly about their periods, but we wanted to create a space where women and girls of all walks of life can share their stories.
No.
So that's our period segment, period power.
No, it's really amazing. I think it's really amazing to be able to have like a space where it is normal to talk about your period, and not even just to talk about it, but like to celebrate it, you know, because I think that
100%.
that shows you that actually this narrative that having a period is weird or disgusting is actually wrong, and it's oppressive, you know.
It's super oppressive. Completely.
It's very oppressive. So yeah, I'm really like backing you and backing you guys for
Thank you.
contributing to that. And then also I think I'm interested in learning about like, or hearing about what you have gained or learned about women's relationships with their cycles through hearing different people's period stories, as well as being able to help out other women who are in need.
Yes. So generally we've had a few positive stories on our period power segment on a Friday. So we have had some great positive stories, and I mean, I had quite a positive first experience, but on the whole, generally most of the stories we do get are not super positive. It's often people not knowing what's happening when they get their period, not having the correct tampons or the pads or whatever they need, having embarrassing stories such as leaking and not feeling good, and just not feeling confident in themselves in relation to their period. So just quickly repeat the question. Sorry.
I think you've basically been answering it. I just was asking what you have gained, like the insights you have gained.
Oh, what have I
gained?
Yeah. So I've gained that there's a lot of work to be done, even though now there are more pages about talking openly about periods like ourselves. There's still lots to be done, because it's still very taboo. Like people walk to the bathroom with like their tampon covered, and need lots to be done.
And then, so before we move on to quickly talking about period products, I wanted to know if you have any tips that could help women to be more period proud.
Ooh, that's quite a difficult question, because not everyone will have the same relationship to the period. And it's not as simple as just, embrace your period, be proud, because in a lot of cultures and in communities, it's really still seen as such a taboo. It's actually seen as dirty in a lot of communities. And that is something that's going to take some time, but through awareness and, the projects that we do in different communities, we are also try to aim for, in some of the projects we aim for like the older girls, so that they can, filter down to the younger girls and teach them. So there's many ways to be period proud and embrace your period. But I don't want to be prescriptive about how one should do that.
No, definitely. I think that's an important thing to note, because I was involved in a project in 2019, which was for my post-grad course, which was also aimed around at period poverty. And we did actually learn through our basically like research exactly what you're talking about, just how, for us, it's like super chilled to be like, yay, period proud and stuff. But for people from different cultures, they have completely different relationship with their periods. And, even the thought of like using a tampon is like mind-blowing.
And that's something I actually recently learned, because before that I never thought about the relationship between different period products. And then last year we were doing we often use reusable pads just because it's more sustainable. And we were in one of the communities chatting to the girls, and they said they would never touch a tampon because of the like stigma that goes with putting it up your vagina. But I never knew that before, so I'm learning a lot.
There is so much to learn. Okay, cool. And then I'm curious to know what led you to starting to use a menstrual cup. I know you did a whole IG TV on this, but for those who have not seen it yet, yeah, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So, so basically, I think it was maybe 2 years ago. One of my friends, I met a girl, and who's now a good friend, and she said she was wearing the menstrual cup, and it was the first time I'd ever really heard about it. And she was telling me how amazing it is. She's quite an environment activist, so she was doing it because it's obviously much more sustainable, better for the environment. You're obviously not using tampons or pads once and throwing them away. Anyway, so she told me about it, and I kind of did some research, but while I was researching, it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I heard some horror stories, and then there was all these questions, and it's kind of, you can't just, you don't actually know your size until it's trial and error, which kind of freaked me out. And yeah, so anyways, I didn't use it for a long time, and then last year I decided, you know what, now I'm in the space, I have to, because I want to test out like the reusable pads that we use. I've used them before we use them in a project, so I don't want to do a project with a product that I've never used.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, so I started using it, and it was quite tricky to get it in and out, but now I've been using it since then. Haven't used anything else, and it's super comfy, and yeah, I really love it.
Yeah,
so I would actually really recommend it, but it is quite intimidating.
I can only imagine. I've also been using it since last year. And I like honestly would never go back, but like you're saying that I'm testing the cloth pads, I would really like to test them as well, because I've done, I think, like 2 videos on my channel where I speak about reusable menstrual products, but I haven't been able to give like an actual opinion on cloth pads because I've never personally used them. But something that I often think of,
you should try them.
No, I will. I think it would also be good to have like options, you know?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm really glad to hear that you guys do donate cloth pads, because like you said, they're sustainable. Obviously, then it's better for the woman as well, because then she has a product that she can reuse and not have that stress of like, okay, I have stuff for this month, but what about next month? Exactly, as well as in terms of like the health benefits of using cloth pads versus your normal stuff, which, you know, like you mentioned with the tampons, they have all of these chemicals that are not necessarily good for your health. So that's a question that I've often asked myself in terms of like, if I was going to donate stuff, would I donate something that I wouldn't necessarily be happy to give to myself? And I think it's like, I think I'm really glad to hear that you guys are doing that, because it's also another thing that we need to look at in terms of like menstrual health for everybody.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I only actually really thought about what goes into a menstrual product after one of my friends had toxic shock syndrome, and she literally nearly died. And it was from leaving a tampon in for too long. And so after that, I also started thinking like, okay, great, I should actually go onto the menstrual cup, because there aren't those toxins. And
Okay, so I know you have to dash soon. So before we go, we had a question. I asked people on Instagram, so we got one question, which I think is a bit difficult to answer if you are not a doctor, but do you know anything about what causes breakouts leading to periods?
So yes, okay, I'm obviously not a medical professional, so this is not medical advice, but I think breakouts before period, one of the main reasons would be hormones. Like, I think this is also the hormone area. You have different like skin maps on your face, so hormones are obviously one of the main things, but I'm not too sure how you would control breakouts due to hormones. So that's for a professional. And then secondly, another thing I can think of is maybe you have sugar cravings before your period, and maybe people are eating chocolate and maybe it doesn't agree with them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think those are all valid things, and
Yeah.
pretty much Google is also some sort of a doctor with a bit of a pinch of
Yeah.
salt, of course. So there are answers available if anybody is looking for a more in-depth answer. But yeah, lastly, where can people find out more about the CORA Project?
So we have a website, which is the coraproject.org, O-R-G, and our Instagram, which is also the CORA Project. Actually, all of our social media, everything's the CORA Project. Yeah. So then, yeah, on Instagram, we post almost daily, and we post a lot of informative facts and our projects. And yeah, we have an IGTV live every month. So yeah, there's lots going on. But our website has everything: projects, how to donate, how to get involved. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. That's amazing. I hope that everybody will go and check it out.
Yes, I hope so too.
Great. So, well, thank you, Aurora, for joining me today. This was really insightful, and I hope that, in fact, I know that whoever watches this will gain a lot from it.
Thank you so much for having me and for all the great questions.